my guess is you'll get a bounce off that lows, but it'll chop around after that for a while until the next bull market takes over.
In this interview, Gareth Soloway talks about exactly how much lower Bitcoin could fall from here. His last prediction for the bear market turned out to be true, so we need to listen to him very carefully. He then gives his advice on whether or not you should continue to hold your coins, what caused the Bitcoin collapse, and how long the bear market will last. He also talked about other altcoins like Ethereum and one major catalyst for Bitcoin and crypto that could single-handedly save the market. He then touches upon gold, S&P 500, and Bitcoin's correlation with tech stocks. If you want to hear Gareth's comments on the crypto market, watch this video till the end and don't forget to press the like button. Also, subscribe to our channel for daily updates. We post twice every single day. Now, let's look at his interview.
So wild movement in crypto markets, wild movement in stock markets. I mean, bonds, we know the bond market has been crazy with yields. But bottom line is, when you look at the crypto market, it did exactly what it should have done. And I know that sounds weird to people, but the charts really give us insights. They give us the probabilities to kind of decipher what the likely outcome is. And I remember last time we talked about this bigger down move from 69,000 to about 33,000, and then how you got in this sideways choppy kind of consolidation pattern in cryptocurrency. And that's, if you look in a textbook, that's a standard bearish, channel pattern, bear flag pattern. So what that tells you, and by the term bear, we know that more than likely it was going to break down. It did just that, and it came down sharply, basically tagging 25,000 on the charts. Now, one thing I will show you, which is just so cool, and this is just how cool the charts are, but if we go to another channel, and I love my channels, as you guys know, and we flip over to it, and if we just connect this high through right here to this high and this high, so
Yeah.
basically the last two highs, and if we just draw a parallel down, look at what you got here. Like, where did Bitcoin stop falling?
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
here at the lower end. And look at that hit, and that hit. So it's amazing how these charts show us, but I actually ended up going long on Bitcoin right down here just for a trade. Again, it's not a long-term investment, but just for a trade based on the fact that we hit this lower end of the trend. Yeah, so right now, nothing in the chart has changed. So 20,000 is the high end of my target. And again, just to understand where that's coming from, it's coming from the 2017 high. I believe that we have to get back there. We have to retest it. The idea here is that we're going through this first time ever for cryptocurrency where, the Fed is hiking rates substantially. They're sucking money out of the system. We've never had a period since Bitcoin's inception where there
Right.
wasn't some sort of QE going on, right? Well, now they've sucked that out. They've taken that away. They're reducing their balance sheet and they're raising rates. So it implies that we should have a bigger correction than usual. The other thing that I'd love to show you guys is 20,000 is the high end of my target. The low end is actually down at 12,000. And the way I'm getting that 12,000 target, if I make this chart here zoom out properly, is basically if you look at this move down from 69,000 to 33,000, that's basically a vertical drop of $33,000. And if you take this high here at 48 and drop that same 33,000 down, which is what's called a measured move in technical analysis, you get $12,000. And what's even more fascinating is that if you look at previous cycles like 2017, when it topped out till the end of the bear market, in 2013, Bitcoin corrected 80 to 85%. Well, guess where 80 to 85% is? It's right around 12,000. So 20,000 is my high end, and 12,000 would be my worst case scenario correction on Bitcoin.
12,000. Sorry. And what time frame could we see it go that low? Would it just happen quickly or over a few months? How fast does that happen?
Yeah, so past cycles usually from the highs. So if you go back to November of 2021, it's 12 to 18 months. So we're already over 6 months into that, which implies give or take around 12 months more until we reach the bottom. But I do think that what'll end up happening is it'll be when fear gets to that level. We know fear is very pervasive. It'll be a fast move down, and then my guess is you'll get a bounce off that lows, but it'll chop around after that for a while until the next bull market takes over. So that was always a myth, right? That it shined in times of inflation because we never really had inflation since the beginning of Bitcoin, right? It was always 2% or lower until now. And you've gotten in a scenario where I do believe long term it is the digital gold. I truly do, and that's when I will accumulate a large position when it gets low enough for me. But I think it's also important to
Yeah.
recognize that Bitcoin's been around since 2009. It's only a 13-year-old, and think about it in logical terms. Like for those of us that have kids, is a 13-year-old thinking logically, or are they very erratic? Right? It's not mature. Like the gold market has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's very mature. You don't see big moves in gold, maybe 1% here and there. It's a very mature market. So eventually you will see Bitcoin mature into a much more stable market. But right now it's still being bought and sold by people panicking and being greedy and all this craziness. And it's still a very young asset. Man, what and by the way, I think that what happened with the UST, the Terra Luna
Yeah.
stablecoin, it's such a disservice to cryptocurrencies because everything about crypto right now is trying to get people to trust it, to adopt it,
Right.
and when you have these situations, it is very, very bad. I hope that good things can arise from this, meaning that you do need governments to come in and have some sort of regulation to prevent things like this happening again. And I think that could be a long-term positive. Maybe something like this needed to happen to get that regulation going. And I know a lot of people in the crypto markets are like, oh, I don't want any regulation. But you have to. If you ever want it to be a dominant force in assets,
Right.
crypto needs forms of regulation. For instance, like one of the biggest things to me personally as an investor is that in an investment account where I trade stocks, I'm FDIC insured. In a bank account, I'm FDIC insured. You don't have that in crypto accounts. So if someone, hacks in or makes you click a link that they steal your money, it's gone. And that is very disconcerting for people like me that I want to put a lot of money in, but I mean, God forbid I click a link by accident and someone just takes my money and runs. So you do need the right steps to be taken here. And when that happens, I'm hopeful that that's a positive.
I mean, just a few months ago, they were enjoying this honeymoon phase, and it's like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, I mean the Terra Luna collapse was insane. To see one of the top cryptocurrencies go to
Yeah.
now hundredths of a penny. But again, understand what they do, and this is actually an important point because a lot of investors are like, oh, let me buy it down here. I mean, people were buying it at 10 cents, thinking, oh, this is a great, it's going to have a snapback. But please understand, they're doing the same thing as they do with stocks, where they dilute, they issue shares to try to shore up the UST, the stable coin. And so basically, I think you went from like 300 coins of Terra Luna to like billions and billions and billions. And so it's very hard for a stable or for Terra Luna to actually bounce back significantly when they're just printing more and more of it.
Do you think this just builds the case that if there is one cryptocurrency left standing, it's just Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, that's the one that most big money and institutions are focusing on. I think Ethereum has that shot as well
Yeah.
because it's the biggest one. But I really truly believe that it's going to be a healthy thing to happen. But you have to see 90 to 95% of all cryptos wiped out. I mean, think about the dot coms. Think about what went on there. So many crappy dot com companies got crazy valuations. Eventually, they kind of went away. And then the best of breed, the Amazons, the Googles, the ones we always talk about that are the biggest companies in the world, they're the ones that survived, and then they thrived because there was less out there for investors to go into. And I think that's very key for cryptocurrency. It's almost like a rite of passage for any asset. It has to go through this wipeout, and then the best kind of come out of it stable.
Gareth, if you don't mind, let's pull up Ethereum. You mentioned it,
Yep.
um, down 50% on the year here as we're speaking.
Yeah, so I mean, I have some trend lines here. Basically, I bought off of this lower range right down here based on
Right.
major support. This upper line is resistance. You can see we just kind of kissed it and pulled back a little bit. I do think Ethereum has more upside, likely back to about 2,500 in the near term over the next week or two. But again, I'm in a position where I'm looking at a bigger breakdown on the chart, and this is very problematic. And let me draw this trend line in for you guys. Is this trend line was such a good trend line until it broke. So see how for basically going back to early 2021, you kept on hammering and hammering and hammering, and then it broke. And once a trend line like this breaks, it's very hard for it to get back above this range. And ultimately, it may have bounces, but then the next leg lower comes in. So unfortunately, I think, I mean, at a very bare minimum, just like Bitcoin going back to the 2017 highs, I'm in the camp that you're likely headed back to about 1400 at minimum on
Okay.
Ethereum.
Do you think, and maybe we're still years away, but if we were to see a Bitcoin spot ETF, could that save the market?
It won't save the market if we're in immense fear, because fear is the most powerful emotion. But I do think that is one step in the right direction for beginning to build the next bull case to new all-time highs. Meaning that
Mm-hmm.
you definitely, if you can buy an ETF that is on spot, so it doesn't have the flip overs of the future contracts and have losing value and stuff like that, then you can actually buy these cryptos in a way in your investment accounts and have that FDIC insurance and have that security and be tracking Bitcoin one for one. So I think, again, if you're in this crazy period where the stock market's still collapsing another 20-30%, if crypto's still going down, I mean, yeah, you might get a short-term bounce, but that fear is still going to be there. But if you can get through that period, then that is the next stage towards upside.